Super excited about this new software that allows me to come into your space, honey, and talk to you and allow you to talk back to me through your comments. And so I want to invite you to pull up a chair. There are a couple of things I that this has just been brewing in my spirit, something like brewing in your spirit. And what's been brewing in my spirit, quite honestly, is this whole situation with Wendy Williams, her ex-husband, Kevin Hunter Sr., and now her son, Kevin Hunter Jr. One of the things I know for sure is Miss Wendy is not a cash cow. And I want to kind of look at some of the things here that apparently she put into motion. And I don't know if that was a good thing or not. As a single mother, I understand the importance of making sure that our children, our sons, have a leg up, especially if we did not. All right. But at some point, it has to make sense. So recently, today, I saw on one of my news feeds, basically, that Wendy Williams' son, Kevin Jr., was evicted from a $2 million apartment. Now, listen, y'all, listen. Is it me or is somebody tripping? Okay. $2 million. He's a full time student, and that's commendable. He's 22 years old and he was living in a $2 million apartment. Was that really necessary? What was that going to prove? So during the eviction, the actual court, he was explaining to the judge that his mother's sickness was sudden, and she had put up what $100,000 or something. And so basically, he was saying, my mom not getting her money. So for those of you that don't know, Wendy Williams, her salary was $10 million. That's right. But because of her illness and everything, her last season was 2021, and so they just said we're no longer going to pay her $10 million. That makes sense if you don't have your job, right? And so then she's not able to control her own money, and she doesn't have the same type of money that she had back in the day. And so sometimes we have to be careful because we can create a monster. I believe that you want to give your children the best, but I don't believe you should set your kids up for failure. I hear people talking all the time when they say Shaq made sure his children knew that he's rich, they're not rich. And sometimes we do things like this and life happens unexpectedly. Now what? I heard Bishop TD Jakes talk about it's more important what you leave in your children than what you leave for your children. And are we really setting a good example? So Wendy Williams has both of these men that are part of her life, and both of them depend upon her to make sure that they can live. Something's wrong with that. No, no, and no. There's a point of responsibility. Her ex husband, Kevin Sr., was receiving $250,000 a month. Now, if you read the story closely, it was to help him secure housing, not maintain housing, Mr. Hunter. Secure means I'm going to get you in there. Maintaining would mean I'm going to keep you there. But if somebody gives you enough money to go secure housing, not just for you, but for you and your mistress or the young woman that you're currently engaged to and the baby, did you really think that you wouldn't have to work? I mean, come on now. Really? And should somebody feel sorry for that situation? I absolutely do not. Call me old school, but a man should be able to take care of himself apart from somebody else's money. And if you have this woman, why would you even think that your ex should continue to pay your way as you create another family in another home? I don't understand that. So reality check. You need to get a job. And the other piece is humble yourself and get enough house that you can afford. right? That you can afford. Why should she continually pay for something that you created? I don't understand that. And I probably never would. I did read somewhere where she said that he was not, he being Kevin Hunter Sr., was not who her mother prayed for, but is who she prayed for. And she wanted a thug with a big heart. A thug, a thug. She got a thug. I remember I wanted a thug. I wanted a converted thug. I said, Lord, give me a converted thug. And I had one, and it was not nice. And so I said, okay, Jesus, no, no, no. Since you're listening to me, he was converted. I thought he was still a thug. Okay. But at the end of the day, that did not serve me nor the relationship. I have a problem. I really have a problem with capable men sitting by and allowing a woman to take care of them. I have a problem with that. I have a huge problem with a grown man. As they say, he's a grown ass man. He's a really grown. You were sitting at home expecting this money to come in. You have a fiance and a child, and now the money's not coming in, and you're facing foreclosure. And now you want to take Wendy Williams back to court. They said you can't get blood from a turnip. She can't give you, darling, what she doesn't have. And why would you even think for one moment that you would need a job? I'll wait. So we have to make sure that when we have children or we have these situations that we don't create a monster, right? We don't create a monster. Jennifer Hudson did a show, her show, and she's doing great with that. And she was talking about a pair of tennis shoes that her son wanted. And I think the tennis shoes were like $20,000, and she was like, no. And it wasn't that she couldn't afford it; it just didn't make sense. It just did not make sense to spend that kind of money on a pair of tennis shoes. You can say whatever you wanted, but she understands that that would be some kind of crazy. See? But she remembers being, growing up old school. And we're all going through things, but why make it create too much stress for yourself? You got a woman, you got a fiance, y'all got a baby. If you cannot afford to stay in this home, then you need to have a conversation with your love and say, sweetheart, we have to move. We have to move. I mean, come on now. I've had to move several times. What am I going to do? Take my husband, my ex, to court? No, he actually took me to court, believe it or not. I was paying child support and I fell behind by $11,000 in the arrears. And at the time, I had a man I call my father, Buford Norman. He passed away suddenly. But at one point, when I was married, he had shared with myself as well as the man at the time that was my husband that he was going to leave me everything. I didn't even think anything about that. When your parents are talking to you about wills and all those things, you really don't want to think about it. But one day they're not going to be here. And I just thought it was so awesome that he thought that much of me to want to leave that to me. But when he passed away, we couldn't find the paperwork. So one day I got this letter in the mail saying that I needed to go to court. And I get there and I'm like, why am I going to court? Well, it was my husband. He remembered the conversation that he had with my dad, Buford Norman. And so he told the judge, he said, Your Honor, her father passed and he said he's leaving her everything. And I was wondering if you could get the arrears, the $11,000 arrears out of the money that he left her. This is what this man did. And I looked at the judge and I said, Your Honor, he has not even been dead 30 days. See, money and situations like this will really show you where a person is at. Money makes people do stupid stuff. Money, they say, for the love of money, people will what they say, rob, kill, and steal. They listen. And they said, people don't let money change you. Money. People have lost their lives over $5, right? But there's a point where you have to have common sense. They said common sense isn't common practice. Does it really make sense for a son, 22, who's in school, to have a $2 million apartment that he's not paying for? Does it make sense? Well, Dolores, they're in New York. Yeah, you're in New York, but life has changed. Things are going to change. It's inevitable. And unfortunately, Miss Williams has suffered Crohn's disease and some other things, and nobody saw that coming. But everybody has her on the hook. You know, she's supposed to take care of her son, and then she's supposed to send $250,000 to her ex, who has another woman and a baby. Where do they do that at? Wherever you allow them to. And sometimes a shift or a disruption in your regular pattern is a blessing in disguise, because some of us are just throwing money out the window. We're doing things that we don't even need to do. So it's like a wake up call. I want to know what your thoughts are. And hopefully I can get some of your comments up in here, because you can send a comment. They say you can. Um, Click on them to showcase. Okay, I don't see any yet, but if you want to put them in there, we can try this. Once again, I'm Dolores Jones, the comeback coach and transformational speaker who loves to help you rebuild your confidence and live the life you've always dreamed about. I am sitting here and we're talking about Wendy Williams' son, Kevin Jr., who was recently evicted from a $2 million apartment. I'm just wondering what a 22-year-old who is not paying for a $2 million apartment would expect right now. I don't know. Then on the other side of that, her ex-husband, Kevin Sr., was receiving alimony of $250,000 a month. You do the math. So let me see, because she was worth 40 million when they divorced, and he was entitled to 20 million. Come on, somebody, talk to me. So let's do the math real quick. I'm gonna do the math. I'm gonna pull up my calculator. Mhm. Now the son, him and his daddy, back in 2019, you may recall the story where the son fought his father, and he fought his father because he could not believe that his father wanted his mother to give him alimony. I mean, okay, but let's look at the monies. Let's look at the monies, honey. So you got $250,000 a month times 12 months. That's $3 million a year. Hey, y'all. Hey, hey, hey. All right. Hey, Miss Banks. Thank you. $3 million. Okay. So this grown man, good to see you, darling. This grown man wants to sit home and just collect $3 million from his ex-wife. I'll wait. Is that realistic? Maybe you should. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. And we create these false realities when we don't hold people accountable. Some people feel entitled to what you have because maybe they felt they were a part of it. Now, you will recall that at one point, Mr. Hunter was her manager. He's no longer her manager, nor is he her husband. This man has a whole different family. And ladies, if I'm not correct, or maybe I am, that say for instance you're a widow, well, you will get widow benefits, but those benefits will stop once you get married. And I know people who are like, girl, I ain't gonna get married and mess up this Social Security. They say, I'm not ready to give up this Social Security. So if that's the case, y'all let me know. What do you think? What do you think about this whole situation? The men in Wendy Williams's life, her life, that she's been paying for everybody. And then the brother got mad about something. That whole entitlement mentality where she's the person that put in a lot of work. And I understand everybody needs some support, but baby, it's over. There are a lot of women. Listen, did you know that women and children represent the biggest number of those who live in poverty? Mhm. Poverty. And so if we have to figure it out, because Lord knows I had to figure it out, why shouldn't he have to figure it out? I mean, humble yourself. I had to go stay in my mom's baby sister's two townhome and share space with my two nephews. That was embarrassing. But you know what? I had to do what I had to do because I didn't make smart decisions. I sold my house before I should have. I got in a relationship and threw my intelligence out the window. And next thing you know, I have this situation that I had to deal with. Superman was not coming, honey. Nobody was coming. I had to get my butt up and make a decision. I had to come up with a plan. I didn't have alimony. And sometimes you don't even want nothing because you got to keep dealing with the person. But what happens if the person, they were married, I think it said about 21 years? Okay. But did you really think a woman was going to sit there and take care of you? What are you going to do? Make her get some money? She doesn't have any. So you could go back to the judge as many times as you want. You can't make Wendy Williams have something that she doesn't have. What you can do is say, I need to get off my butt right now because I got a family. I got a new fiance and I got a child and we need to live somewhere. And he's talking about what they call it, the neighborhood association. They going to get them evicted. Sir, you don't need a neighborhood association. You need a home. Think about, what's the man's name? Um, Very wealthy. Warren is the man's name. I can see his name. Very wealthy. They call him the Oracle of Oklahoma. Warren Buffett. This man is wealthy. And then some people say filthy rich. But you know what he did? He still has the house he had before he became this wealthy rich man. And he was saying, it's not that I can't get a house for this or that. He says, well, why would I need it? And that's what somebody said. He said, we go for what we want. We pay for what we want, and then we beg for what we need. Isn't that something? We pay for what we want, and then we beg for what we need. But you have to step back and go, does this make sense right here? Does this make sense? I know maybe, you're used to living a certain lifestyle, but when life changes, when life changes, what are you going to do? When you think that all of a sudden you hit rock bottom, what are you going to do? Who are you going to blame? You can't blame anyone. If you have a family and you're responsible for a family, baby, you got to go do what you got to do. I remember working at McDonald's. I do. I remember working at McDonald's. I kid you not. My son didn't even want me to work at McDonald's. He did not. But you know what? I knew that I needed not to sit home and complain about anything. Anything, right? Nothing. I had to position myself. Now, I had a master's degree. I knew I could work as a social worker. And in the meantime, I applied for a job in social work. But I worked at McDonald's for 2 days. That's all I could do, Jesus. That's all I could do. But the thing was, I was willing to try it. And thankfully, I got the job at the what they call it. It was called a long-term care facility, making 60,000 versus what the lady said. She said, I think I can get you a whole $9. Okay. See, sometimes you got to do what you don't want to do. If you don't want to do the work to maintain a big old house, baby, then you just need to start looking. You need a realtor, and I'm sure there's some that are reasonable where you could just, you can put your money away and do smart stuff. For example, here I am right now. I have a 1-bedroom apartment, and it's just quaint, and honestly, it's all I need. When I had a 2-bedroom apartment, I really didn't use the second bedroom as an office. I just put everything in there, like clothes and books and stuff, and it didn't make sense. So I thought, listen, what am I trying to prove if I buy a big old house with 12 bedrooms? What do I need 12 bedrooms for? You're right, I don't. We get what we want and then we beg for what we need. We have to change that. And I know sometimes we identify with our wealth, our cars, our neighborhoods, but what happens when that stuff is gone? Do you really know who you are? Do you have the good sense that the Lord gave you? Are you able to step back and say, you know what? This ain't worth me dying over. I'm not getting ready to jump out a window because I lost my job today. Right. What I know is people hire people that they know, like, and trust. But whenever they hire you, they're hiring you to help them with their vision. And the kicker is if they have no need for you, then you will not do that job anymore. So now what are you doing? You've already seen the writing on the wall, right? You saw the writing on the wall. Okay. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do differently? Okay, this time last year, okay, I was facing losing this job, but I was just sitting around going through the one ads. But this year, I'm going to go get in one of these, online classes and go to some of these programs where they give free workshops about how to do your business plan and stretching and going back and looking at that dream and looking at what problem I can help solve and dealing with my feelings of inadequacy because I really do have something to contribute. I just got to find the right way to do it. And that's why I've been spending I spent my first 2 days from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon on an intensive training with Dr. Sonia Stripling. And if you don't know her, she wrote a book called My Divorce Saved My Life. And she talked about how she would constantly go on Facebook 3 times a day for an entire year to talk about what she was experiencing through her divorce. And eventually, she earned the name of divorce coach. And then from there, next thing you know, she's on television. She has her own show. She's doing this. And she had 3 sons. She had 3 sons. And honestly, during one of the trainings, she said, I had to cut one of my sons off. I said, that's real talk right there. That's real talk. She has the money. She millions. We're not talking about thousands. We're talking about millions of dollars. And now she is willing to share that information with those who want to invest with them in themselves and have what it takes to make a difference in their own lives and the lives of other people. These are desperate times and people are looking for answers. I remember going through in my own life and I was like, oh God, who can I talk to? Because some of this stuff is so deep and painful that you can't just talk to everybody about it because everybody doesn't know, what to do. They just don't. I can't give you something I don't have. Maybe I'm your mom, yeah, but that's not my area, right? I was like, man, and I told myself, I said, I don't want to read some big old book to get through this. So when I wrote my first book, Stop the Dumb Stuff, it's yay thick. Because let me tell you something, when you're in a crisis mode and you're trying to figure something out, the last thing you want to do is flip through an encyclopedia. That much I do know. Come on, give me some strategies. Give me something. Give me stuff where I don't even have to. I know I got to think about it, but I don't want to have to struggle going through reading this stuff. This doesn't even make sense to me. Mr. Hunter, you don't get a pass. It's time to get up off that A. Okay. You do not get a pass, sir. Wendy Williams can no longer take care of you as you try to take care of your family. I don't why would somebody be proud of that? The judge probably should say, sir, go get a job and get a house that you can afford And you knew this was going to happen, right? You already knew when you chose, they said you got to pay to play. All right. You knew you had it a certain way with that marriage. Okay. You had all the money you could ever want. And you decided you want to go over here with this beautiful young woman. Okay. And Wendy even said she knew, I think that mistress had been around for 15 years of their marriage. She just said that if there was a baby ever involved, she was not going to be a part of that. So once again, I want you to know I'm trying a new software. This is called Real Restream, and I'm loving it because it allows me to sit in one space and actually do a live and hit my YouTube channel as well as my Facebook. And then there are others that I can continue to add. And so what I'm saying to you, you have an opportunity here. Whatever you put into the comments, it will come here and I can share that with people. So I want to thank Ms. Banks for coming over and sharing your thoughts. This is a way for you to communicate. And hopefully, as you see the words that I see, you can see their comments and you feel free to comment on their comments. This is a conversation. What would you do if you were Mr. Hunter? If you were Wendy Williams' ex-husband and you found out that your alimony was not coming, it's over. What would you do? What would you do? Ladies, we've been figuring this thing out forever and ever, and ever. Went and got some food stamps. Sure did. Now, if he has no income, he qualified for some food stamps. You're not too good to get some food stamps, you and your baby's mama, right? Or the mother of your daughter, your child. Go get some food stamps. It trips me out. It's called life, right? It's called life. I know what it's like to grab a pot of water and have to boil the water because the heat was off and you couldn't heat the water in the house. So I had to boil several things of water and put some cold water in there and balance it out and then give my son a bath and do the same thing for myself. So that's why you need to appreciate your humble beginnings. I'm not jumping out a window. It ain't gonna happen. I had an eviction notice one time on the door and I just left it up there. I said, let me save them some papers. And you got to have a sense of humor. You got to have a sense of humor. I said, I'm just going to go ahead and leave that up there. And then the day when the sheriff came, she showed up. I opened the door and I said, I've been expecting you. She said, I've never been accepted like this. I said, oh, honey, come on in here. I said, you're going to do your job. God going to do his job. Okay. And that's how we started that. And she sat down. We had a great conversation. You get to change the narrative. You get to change the narrative. So go through the process. Go through the things that are inconvenient and understand those inconveniences have benefits if you look at it like that. But if you play the blame game and this person cut me off and blah, blah, blah. Really? When I was paying child support, $400 and something they wanted me to pay, you know that the man, he was a hearing officer. He wasn't even a judge. He looked at me and said, you got a master's degree. And I thought, what does that have to do with anything? He basically was saying, you have the earning potential. Now go earn some money and pay this money. What? Now there was some shady stuff happening and eventually he was taken off the case, but he caused a lot of damage. But at the end of the day, I still had to get up and figure it out. I left the house, so that meant I had to figure out where we were going to go, where we were going to live. I moved more than I cared to even remember, but I still had to figure it out. And I couldn't say, well, he should have gave me the house. No, I shouldn't have said that. I can't go back and change that. If it was important to me in that moment, then it might have been something I would go for. But after it's said and done, the divorce is over, I'm not getting ready to sit around and talk about what you should have done, could have, would have done. I'm done shitting on myself. Are you done shitting on yourself too? You need to stop that. Anyway, I just realized my fingernail is broke and I got to go get that fixed. But anyway, so I want to thank y'all again. I'm just trying out this new wonderful software. Excuse me. And today I've been on live quite a few times today because I'm super excited about the ability to come into one space and to broadcast all over the place. This is so awesome, awesome, awesome. So, thank you for being here with me. I want you to like and share the video, leave your comments, and all those other things, okay? Take care of yourself tonight. Understand it's just one day at a time, baby. Just take it one day at a time. That's all that's required. That's all that's required. And if it's a day where you feel like I can't do anything, allow yourself to have that day. Take a mental health day as many times as you need, babies. But make sure when you do it, it's purposeful. Don't take that time and just allow your mind to be filled with more clutter and more drama. I've been home for the last 2 days, like I said, doing a training. I have not watched television because that's not what this time has been about. This time has been about investing in myself and my future for the next 6 months and looking at what income I'm bringing in and what lives I'm going to impact. You have to put yourself, they say, reposition yourself. If right now you feel like you're not in the right place or space, this is the time for you to reposition yourself. Get real with yourself. Where do you need to be? Who should you know? What do you need to do? And small steps count too. Remember when a baby first starts walking, they grab and hold on to stuff and they fall and we go, oops, a daisy. We don't say, look at you with your clumsy self. A good parent would not say that, right? So have some self compassion with yourself. Some things are a learning curve. There's certain things that I have to learn, and some things I ran away from. But eventually, I realized I still had to come and learn them if I was going to benefit from them. Personally, I know I shouldn't be working for anybody else. I'm grateful for every opportunity I've had and received, but there comes a point where you know what you're supposed to be doing. And either you're going to do it or you're not. But how many of us like the thought that somebody can call us and say, you're fired? Some lady had a talk and it was called Fire Your Job or Fire Your Boss. I don't like feeling that. Oh my goodness, I must have said something crazy. Okay, okay, okay. Is this it? Am I about to be, reprimanded? Or am I going to be rolled up? I mean, there comes a point in your life where you're like, I ain't dealing with that. I'm not dealing with that foolishness anymore. I'm not dealing with that. There's a time and place for everything, right? If you still want to answer to somebody and you want them to have your future in their hand, that's on you. But don't complain because you have all these opportunities that exist right now for you to blossom, for you to grow, for you not to depend upon anybody. I don't even care if it's Wendy Williams. And Lord bless Wendy Williams. Because I know that has to be hard to have all these people depending upon you, capable people. But you got to be realistic. The son does not need a $2 million apartment. The cost of living there is astronomical. But $2 million? Do you know how much money that young man he could have saved? Oh no, because some of us are just in the moment. Well, I'm just going to enjoy this right now because this is just going to keep happening and keep happening. And then she got ill. And we can take this lesson from what we're talking about with Wendy Williams and the men in her life and her son and her ex-husband and look at our own lives right now and ask yourself, am I being wasteful or is this making sense? Am I handicapping myself? In other words, am I playing small on some levels and being very careless over here? When I was renting my house, instead of taking the money and putting it in the savings account, I was taking the money and buying clothes that I probably lost and given away, and shoes. I can't do this. And then when it came time for me to need $1,000, I didn't even have $1,000. And the young woman that was renting my place was paying me $850. hmm But I didn't have enough sense to go and say, you need to put this in a savings account and don't touch it. And next thing you know, I was divorced. Right? I was divorced. And I was like, man, well, what do you have to show for it? Nothing. Because what? I was so busy spending money. I wasn't thinking about my future. I wasn't thinking about investment. And for some of us, We weren't taught about it, but now you have no excuse because it's available. It's like a buffet. The world could be like a buffet. And you go to the buffet and you look at all these things that are being served, all these meals, and you go and you put on your table, you put on your plate what you want. And the same way with opportunities and resources that are out here. Get your little tray, your little book, whatever, and go put that on there. Put that on there. Use that, and then work with it and give it some time. Give it some time. And thank you for spending your time with me. Like I said again, I'm excited about this new what you call this software. I'm so giddy about it that I'm just trying it, and it's making it so much easier for me to go live, right? So thank you all. Thank you for joining me at this moment, and I hope you'll come back. Will you come back and see me again? I'm loving this. I am absolutely loving the opportunity to get on here and talk to one camera and be on Facebook and YouTube and who else knows, right? And do it afraid, do what you got to do, and improve as you go. That's all I want to say about this. Mwah. Talk to you a little later.